I do it out of commitment and loyalty to statehood. So the government has never paid me before, even when I served as member on the Assets
I was
Recovery
just about
Panel.
to ask that. Whether you didn't get something in that regard.
No, they didn't. They didn't give me a dime. In fact, a check of 7,000 was generated, but I refused the check because we didn't recover any assets. And I have my own fundamental policy disagreements with the leadership. The leadership of the assets recovery is corrupt. I expressed that publicly. I expressed that internally first to President Boakai through 3 different communications. When those communications and concerns were not addressed, then I decided to resign.
Okay, so Martin, waking up to the news of the suspension and then onward investigation of the local boss or CEO on Saturday morning. I know you are an avid reader, very avid reader. I admire you so much. We've had some past interactions and the brothership continuance, and I admire the way you continue to do for Liberia. But you lifted this development, you raised this thing against the Nokar boss, waking up to the development this Saturday morning that she's been suspended in order to turn everything over that belongs to government and also turn herself over for investigation. How did you receive that information? Did you greet the information? Did you greet the information with just a moment with a thought that I think the government is listening. I think the government is working towards accountability. Can you forgive the government for some actions based on other actions taken positively?
Firstly, we would like to say thanks to President Boakai for taking the decision. The decision is in the right direction. It is a victory for accountability and transparency. It is a victory for our people. Because, Matthias, let me say this on your show. What corruption does is that it kills. Because when we are supposed to appropriate 100 million for the health sector, because someone has stolen 50 million, do you be afraid? But if the action will only stop at suspension, then I'm afraid about our war wish against corruption.
So what is your expectation in this whole reader, by the way? So
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. We took our own time to investigate. And do you know there are more to that? We haven't even published yet. We just got a lot of stuff last night.
Wow.
So the intent of Madam Swakoko Dennis was to loot Nakar. That was the intent she went to the entity with. Are you aware she's building a very big clinic, even bigger than a hospital?
Wow.
we haven't said anything yet. We haven't said anything yet. So,
okay.
So let me say this, Matthias, on your show.
Right.
There are some good people in the government. They've gone to government with good intent to help our people, but there are also bad people like Swakoko Dennis and others.
So Monty, let me plead for something quickly. I have a guest coming in at 8:00. And the news from the viewer is also 8:00. So I'll beg, for a moment of your time. I can get back to you. I can call you back if you stay available. Then
so let's do this. Let's do this because I'm on my way to school right now.
Okay.
Right. I have a class in like a few minutes.
Okay.
So let's play a show. I'm willing to appear. We can have probably 2 hours. And I can provide all the pieces of evidence.
Okay.
Like I've been doing on this particular matter.
I'll give you Wednesday. Let me join the VOA now. Thank you so much, Martin, for the time.
People deserve to know the truth, Matthias. Thank you for calling. God bless our people and save the state.
Absolutely. Let's now join the Voice of America for 5 minutes of news.
American allies and other global powers. Netanyahu called Trump's suggestion remarkable and the first good idea that he had heard. Egypt's foreign ministry says it's hosting the Arab League summit in Cairo, following talks at the highest level in Arab countries in recent days. I'm Donna Water.
Top Trump administration officials are openly questioning the judiciary's authority to serve as a check on executive power as the new president's sweeping agenda faces growing pushback from the courts. VOA's Joe Ramsey.
Officials ranging from billionaire Elon Musk to Vice President J.D. Vance have criticized a federal judge's decision that blocks Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing Treasury Department records that contain sensitive personal data such as Social Security and bank account numbers for millions of Americans. The pushback comes as the administration's efforts to dismantle government agencies and eliminate large swaths of the federal workforce are being held up by the courts. Judges have also blocked Trump, at least temporarily, from moving forward with mass federal buyouts, from placing thousands of USAID workers on leave, and from implementing an executive order that seeks to end birthright citizenship for anyone born in the U.S. Joe Ramsey, VOA News.
This is VOA News. The United Nations humanitarian chief says famine has been mostly averted in Gaza as a surge of aid enters the territory during a fragile ceasefire, but he warns the threat could return quickly if the truce collapses. Tom Fletcher spoke to the Associated Press Sunday and a visit to Gaza, which has seen hundreds of trucks arrive with humanitarian aid each day since the ceasefire began on January 19th. However, concerns are growing over whether the ceasefire can be extended and talks are meant to begin on its second phase. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on the next U.S. government departments that Elon Musk will be starting to cut.
President Trump describes what Elon Musk is doing with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, as terrific, and says the next departments he will focus on are education and defense.
We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
Trump also tells Fox News Channel's Brett Baier that's what the American people elected him to do, and that Musk is not getting anything out of it. The world's richest person has been criticized for avoiding public scrutiny and for a lack of transparency as DOGE attempts to make massive cuts, some blocked by the courts. I'm Julie Walker.
Sudan's army head Abdel Fattah el-Burhan said over the weekend he would form a technocratic wartime government, and military sources told Reuters Sunday that a new Sudanese government was expected to happen after the recapture of Khartoum is completed. VOA's Christina Menente reports.
The Sudanese army, long on the back foot in its war with the paramilitary rapid support forces, has in recent weeks regained ground in the capital Khartoum.
We can call it a caretaker government, a wartime government. It's a government that will help us complete what remains of our military objectives, which is freeing Sudan from these rebels.
Baran was addressing a meeting of army-aligned politicians in the army's stronghold of Port Sudan on Saturday. The war erupted in April 2023 over disputes about the integration of the two forces after they worked together to oust civilians with whom they had shared power after the uprising that ousted autocrat Omar al-Bashir. The conflict has created one of the world's largest humanitarian crises, with the displacement of more than 12 million people and half the population facing hunger. Christina Menente, VOA News.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll announce on Monday that the United States will impose 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports, including from Canada and Mexico, as well as other import duties later in the week. He also reaffirmed that he'll announce reciprocal tariffs probably Tuesday or Wednesday. That means the U.S. would impose import duties on products in cases where another country has levied duties on U.S. goods. For additional updates, visit our website, voanews.com. I'm Tommy McNeil, VOA News.
What's the current monthly income of a governor and members of the board? Question.
So currently, the salary is $10,000 gross. And I am entitled to, I think, $7,008.
No, you acting governor, don't think now. You already banded.
Yes. But this is it. Since I was appointed acting governor on August 1, I have not attempted taking the salary, the benefits, neither have I moved.
No, that's not my question.
So after your
nominee,
I will.
you won't do pro bono fund. You won't do pro bono fund. What is the salary structure? The income, monthly income structure.
That's what I was saying. The salary, that's the gross, and a cash allowance of $7,800 gross.
You have not answered the question.
That's monthly. So have you asking for all the benefits of
Yes.
Well, okay.
Yes.
So the governor, again, gets a monthly salary of $10,000 gross, a cash allowance of $7,800 gross. The governor is entitled to a housing allowance monthly. Monthly is $5,000 gross. He's entitled to.
So little gross.
No, because the tax rate changes. The tax rate changes. So I can give you.
So you are using $60,000 every year for housing allowance.
Yes, gross. So it's paid less taxes. So that's the gross.
So you got 10,000 gross, 7,000 gross.
Yes.
There are another 5,000 gross.
Yes.
So all the grosses that are giving me a total.
Well, that's 15 plus 7. That's 22.
Okay, 22,000 gross.
Yes.
Net?
Net, I wouldn't say because I have not taken it, so I wouldn't know what is net. And again, the net would vary month to month.
But you've been paying the other.
Yes, I paid them.
So you should know.
The monthly salary of the deputy is $9,000. And then the housing allowance $46,000. There is a monthly.
And that's right. Welcome back to the program, Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. Mark here always likes to, make me scratch my head in the morning listening to these guys mentioning big monies, for the job they do for their country. And everyone comes up to say that I work in the interest of Liberia. Well, I'm not saying that when you work in the interest of the country, it means that you should not get paid. But these monies are really, really huge sum of money that these people are taking. But it's okay. It's Liberia. Welcome to the program, Sky Morning Live. We just had a conversation. Just listen to the news, the VOA news, 5 minutes of news. And prior to that, we spoke with Martin Colley. Martin is an activist. Martin supported the United Party to come to power. He fought against, CDC strongly in so many forms and manners. He spoke about ills in the society, and so today finally the government he supported, the party he supported, that party won the elections, and now the party is in power, but he fell off with the government on several policy issues. So now he is back in his activism, jacket. He's been raising issues of national concern against institutions, individuals, or so. And recently, the latest issue he raised is about the Nokal boss, some decisions she took, and he's even alleging that she's building a very big clinic, a private clinic that is even bigger than close to a hospital, because according to him, she's preparing herself for a comeback to the legislature, for a return to the legislature, in 2029. She's going to be contesting maybe as senator now, perhaps, giving the resources that she was poised to generate at the institution Nokal. Nokal seemed to be a bad luck institution in Liberia. Bad luck, in the context of the fact that most of the people that go there, they become millionaires overnight. The last time we checked, somebody ate $30 million from that place, and that person's mother took responsibility. That's Mr. Robert Salif. Robert Salif, made that place to go bankrupt. So other people just came and, well, today it is Madame Swakoko Dennis, and she's been asked to sit a little bit and then make herself available for investigation. Once she's done that, then if the the president sees it fit to ask her to return to the institution, fine. But if the investigation shows that she should not return to the investigation, it's going to be a serious problem. It means that she's going to go. But then she's found guilty. It also means that she should be prosecuted. That's what the activists and many people are calling for, even some of us in the media. Because if she's investigated and it's proven that she's guilty of most of the allegations levied against her by the activists and other people raising it from different angles, supported by the media generally, it means that she should take the exit door. All right? She should take the exit door. And that is a very, very disturbing, news for her. Our guest is not here yet. So we are looking forward to getting our guest in studio, but it's not arrived yet. So we're going to keep having a conversation. But until then, you two are going to join the conversation. I just want to recap quickly some of the things that I spoke about earlier. I mentioned about this release, which I just spoke about, the suspension of the Nokal boss. But there's this, development that is really, really, touching. I must read this entirely, verbatim, as written by the Executive Mansion. It says, President Boubacar returns from Africa Energy Summit after signing historic Liberia Energy Compact. President Joseph Yuma Boubacar Sr. has returned to the country following a successful visit to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, where he attended the Africa Energy Summit held from January 27 to 29, 2025. A key highlight of the summit was the signing of the Dar es Salaam Declaration, in which African heads of state committed to expanding electricity access to an additional 300 million people across the continent by 2030. This landmark initiative aims to drive sustainable energy solutions and accelerate economic development across Africa. During the summit, President Boubacar also signed the Liberia Energy Compact, solidifying Liberia's commitment as a country partner of the World Bank in advancing its energy sector. Under this agreement, the World Bank has pledged to mobilize $1.5 billion in investments for Liberia's energy infrastructure, with $800 million already allocated for the expansion of the Simpor Hydro Project, SP2 project. The compact represents a major milestone in Liberia's energy transformation, targeting a significant increase in electricity access. The initiative aims to expand access to 100,000 households annually, up from the current 70,000, with an ambitious goal of achieving 75% national electricity coverage by 2030, a national leap from the present 32.7%. President Bouaka was accompanied by a high-level Liberian delegation, including Honorable Augustin Behe Gafuan, Minister of Finance and Development Planning; Honorable Waymont Pay, Minister of Mines and Energy; Honorable Mamaka Belity, Minister of State without portfolio; Honorable Molly Kamara, Economic Advisor to the President. Speaking upon his return, President Bouaka reaffirmed his administration's commitment to sustainable energy development as a driver of economic growth, industrialization, and improved living standards for all Liberians. Reliable and affordable electricity is essential for Liberia's progress, the Liberian leader stressed, noting optimistically, this energy compact is a game changer, and we will ensure that these investments translate into real improvements in the lives of our people. The government of Liberia remains committed to working with international partners to ensure the full implementation of this initiative, bringing clean, affordable, and sustainable energy to millions of Liberians in the years ahead, President Bouaka assured. Wow. I mean, let's go back to the release. This whole, summit that the president attended, the energy summit, the president signed onto the Dar es Salaam Declaration. And in this declaration, African heads of states, they committed to expanding access to electricity, to affordable electricity to about additional 300 million people across the continent by 2030. 2020 now will be going to elections in Liberia. By 2030, this thing should be achieved, meaning the work starts now. These African leaders have started working right now. Another thing I also observe is that, so the president affixed his signature to this particular declaration. So it means that Liberia is part of those countries that whose heads of states agree to sit down and say, you know what, by 2030, this whole issue about current business, let's try to reduce the burden on the people. Let about 300 million people be able to have access to electricity across the continent. Okay, let's go down a little bit. And he also signed the Liberia Energy Compact. This Liberia Energy Compact solidifies Liberia's commitment as a country partner of the World Bank in advancing the energy sector. So under this agreement, according to the release, the World Bank has pledged to mobilize 1.5 billion in investments for Liberia's energy infrastructure. 1.5 billion. I don't know the lifespan, the expectation or the scope of this particular agreement that the compact the president signed. I think Kula can explain this better. But 1.5 billion to invest in Liberia's energy problem, I think that can just relieve us. Even our villages, down to the villages, our moms will have access to electricity. You can buy a freezer and send in the village and tell your mom, okay, I know that you don't have to sell cold water because almost everybody will have freezers in their homes, but you can have it. Drink some cold water or some juices and everything. Let it be, cooling you off. You can buy a television and send it, you can go there, in fact, visit. Every county has a city. Maybe for example, I'm from Lofa and my town is Bayama. If I decide to go there to find some old folks and try to surprise them with some stuff, you can buy a percolator and say, oh, you have electricity already. Plug this percolator, put the water in and make it hot, make your tea. You wake up in the morning and make your tea. With 1.5 billion in investments to Liberia's energy infrastructure, this is a boost for Liberia. Another thing is, in addition to this one, 800 million already allocated for the expansion of the Simple Hydro project under this compact. I mean, this is good. So politics aside, if a government comes to power and it has its goals, it has purpose, it gets on its feet, and that's why many people beat on the government for being slow on a lot of things in the first year. Now I think maybe the government is picking up now. Yes, understood all of its responsibilities. Sometimes you get in an environment, you have to adjust and know exactly what you want. So this one of the major problems we have in Liberia. Corruption is number one, okay? But if we have access to electricity, stable and clean energy, all right, then we have access to roads, which means even the roads leading to the various counties will have street lights. So a driver can wake up even 1 o'clock and say, you know, I'm going to Monrovia. And people will be ready to get on that car and come to Monrovia with their goods. If they're living from Grand Cru, that's very far, one of the farthest counties, you know, to Monrovia. Then you get on the car, maybe before afternoon hours, you are in Monrovia because the roads are paved and you have access to electricity. There are street lights, so there's no need to worry about accidents. There'll be you will minimize accidents. You will even minimize stress. You will minimize depression among the people. Yes, with access to electricity. In addition to this, the compact also represents a major milestone where I don't have to mention this. This is Kula's words, you know, fine tuning this whole thing. Well, should I say fine tuning? Just trying to choose the right words to describe it. But I think it's a good one. Yes, it's a milestone. You can say, you know, it's a big leap, you know, for the government. So whatever way she puts it, it's a very good one. So the compact represents a major milestone in Liberia's energy transformation, targeting a significant increase in electricity access. So the initiative aims to expand access in Liberia. This is Liberia's case now. Continentally, African heads of states are saying they want to ensure that by 2030, all right. For so long they've talked about fighting corruption, but I think now they are paying attention to addressing the real issues, and I like this one. Instead of you people fighting corruption, you all face the real issues. And what are the real issues? Let there be quality education in Africa. Let African youth get educated so that they can compete with their counterparts in the globe. They can live, and always we know we are always bright out there. We step out of this Africa. For some reason, we feel that we've been held down. A certain thing is holding us down. But when we step out of this Africa and we go to other parts of the world, man, we're scholars. All the constraints we go through, we're scholars. So now African leaders, from the look of things, from this Dar es Salaam declaration, I can say that I think there is a new awakening. All right. So they say, okay, you know what? Instead of signing a summit to say ending corruption, ending this, and so on and so on. So let us focus on one thing. There's the problem with electricity in Liberia, perhaps, is the same problem with electricity in Sierra Leone, or is the same problem with electricity in other parts of Africa. So can we come together and work in unison in a way that we end this issue of electricity struggle in Africa? And by 2030, what's going to happen is that let us ensure that we end this thing. At least 300 million people. Let me research. What is the population, the total population of Africa? If 300 million people we have access to electricity, all right. So it tells you that that's a significant number of people, all right. So it is a milestone for Africa and African leaders. You people, I want to commend you, and I want to commend you, Mr. President, for your foreign service or your foreign relation, that you are able to form part. Maybe not all of the countries, all right, not all of the countries are part of this particular initiative, but if it is an African summit, then I think it is very, very good. So according to the information, the current population of Africa is 1,535,460,122 as of Sunday, February 2, 2025, based on the latest United Nations estimates. Africa population is equivalent to 18.3% of the total world population. So yeah, no problem. Say we are in a billion. We are in a billion plus. And we say by 2030, we're going to engage about 300 million people. Well, if you take 300 million from here, that will have access to electricity, it means that we'll be left with 1,235,460,122 people to still have access. But by this, it will also mean that it will be an addition, from my understanding. All right, it will be an addition to the number of people that already have access to electricity. So meaning part of this billion already, maybe we'll have like maybe 500 million people already have access to electricity. So you add 300 million, that you mean that you're reducing the population of people that do not have access to electricity. So back to Liberia, as I mentioned, the president's participation in it is targeting and aims to expand access to 100,000 households annually. Every year, at least 100,000 homes should have access to electricity. So that would mean that from the current 70,000, currently about 70,000 households, have access to electricity. I don't know what that's annually. So we have about 32.7 people currently have access to electricity in Liberia. 32.7 people have access to current, to energy in Liberia. By 2030 also, aligning Liberia's ambition to the Dar es Salaam Declaration on African leaders, African heads of state committing themselves to ensuring that 300 million people have access to electricity in 2030. Liberia is also expecting by 2030, about 75% of its citizens should have access to electricity. This is indeed a milestone. But guess what? Back in Liberia, the LEC is also making some initiatives. From this release here, the LEC recently signed a couple of agreements, a couple of MOUs. And let me just read this press release from the Liberia Electricity Corporation. It says, the Liberia Electricity Corporation, LEC, is pleased to announce a significant step towards enhancing the country's energy security. LEC has officially signed a memorandum of understanding with TBR for the deployment of 100 megawatts of additional power generation capacity, comprising 80 megawatts from natural gas and thermal energy, and 20 megawatts from solar energy. This critical project, according to the LEC, is expected to be installed in the shortest possible time, further strengthening Liberia's electricity infrastructure. In addition to this initiative, I'm trying to get in touch with Philip. Philip is the director of communications at LEC. I hope he has the time to just weigh in quickly on this while I'm reading the release. If I can have access to Philip, I would really appreciate that he shares his thoughts on this particular press release, so he can add some weight on what I'm saying concerning the release. So in addition to this initiative, negotiations are actively underway for the installation of a 270 megawatts natural gas and thermal power plant, which will be deployed over deployed over the next 13 months. This transformative project aims to significantly reduce Liberia's energy deficit, improve grid stability, and support economic growth by providing affordable and reliable electricity to households, businesses, and industries across the country. These initiatives and others ongoing projects reflect our commitment to scaling up power generation in Liberia to meet growing demand and ensure long-term energy sustainability. The addition of 370 megawatts through these projects will not only enhance reliability, but also support industrialization and economic expansion. Thanks to the Liberia Electricity Corporation for this initiative, as the president, the president, the government generally is working on ensuring that this thing is expanded to another level, going to the point of signing, such a milestone agreement, forming part of world leaders that assemble in Dar es Salaam to sign this agreement. And back here too, the LEC is also doing her own initiatives. So while we're doing all of this, we'll be fighting corruption at the same time. And that's the reason why the president took a decision to suspend and turn the NOCA boss over for investigation. Turn her over for investigation so that she can explain, the allegations levied against her, whether they're false or not. When they are true, then she might probably be dismissed and be prosecuted. If they're not, then she might probably go back to work. But until then, that's where we are. And someone would say it is why it is. Let's have a conversation with you now. Call us on those numbers: 0777 777 107, 0777 777 107, 0777 221 223 are the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this morning. I think what's topping the discussion this morning is the issue of energy and current business. They're not smarting. I know that all of you will not get issue with me for talking exclusively current, although I will mention something else regarding Madam Rosalind Swakoko Dennis at the NOCA that the president, asked her, this going Saturday. But it's also good that, we talk about these other developments, most especially electricity. That is a major thing that Liberians most of the time raise concerns about in so many communities. So let's have a conversation. Call us on those numbers: 0777 777 107, 0777 777 107. The numbers you can call us on: 0777 221 223. Are the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this morning. This is Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. Let me take a break. I'm trying to adjust something here quickly and get back to you in a jiffy.
You say what's again become the light. You say what's again become the light of Africa. You say what's again become the light. You say what's again become the light of Africa. You show you the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land. Hey, you show you the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land. Hey, and never will you be singers in your land, singers in your land, singers in your land. Oh, hell, I be a hell, mama. Oh, nice to be a blessed mama. Alright, your time is now. Alright, love you, alright, your time is now. I will you, love you, I will you, oh, I will you, love you, I'm all I will you. I will you, love you, I will you, oh, love you, I'm all I will you. We on the right. Well, hell, love you, hell, my mama. Well, bless, love you, bless, my mama. Well, hell, love you, hell, my mama. Oh, Liberia, God says we're on the rise. If only we shall hearken to his command. It is then that we shall rise, we shall pursue, we shall overtake, and we shall conquer all of our adversaries, and we shall shout at last, the Lone Star forever, the Lone Star forever. Oh, long may it flow o'er land and o'er sea. This journey, Lord, never uphold it forever. And shout for the Lone Star battle. Oh, hallelujah, mama.
And that's right, God, please bless Mama Liberia. It is important that you do that for us. We wake up every morning and singing praise to you, oh God, observing every little thing that we go through, the pings and the challenges, the good things, the progress. All you have to do is to look down upon us, oh Lord. Bless us and give us all of the opportunities that we need, that, you know, all of the things that we need to. Probably you've already given it to us, but we are not observing, and we are just ungrateful, and we are mismanaging everything. All right. So let's have a conversation with you now. We've had, you know, a couple of issues on the plate this morning. This is Sky Morning Live on Sky 107.1. We spoke with Martin Colley for a few minutes regarding the president's decision to suspend and turn her over for further investigation. That's the CEO of NOCAL, the National Oil Company. There's been a couple of, you know, issues raised by individuals, by activists about, you know, the management of the National Oil Company under Madam Swakoko Dennis, a former representative of District Number 4, Montserrat County. Now she's the head of the National Oil Company, NOCA. And the president has asked her to sit down for some time because the whole situation there, the allegations leveled against her, she has to address herself to them, and she cannot be sitting in a position and go on to address that. One other critical thing that's happening is that we may continue to have, you know, instability at the legislature while we have other issues here. Let me just add, is the issue of the division at that Capitol building, meaning the House of Representatives. And that division is so strong that these are two powerful people fighting against each other. Honorable Kofa, Representative Kofa, regardless of this man being a representative, he has money. And a lot of things that we've heard about the Capitol building, the legislature particularly, is that is like a saying of he who pays the piper chooses the tune. So most of the people will be loyal to a government. Most of the lawmakers would not critique the government because of what they get. All right. I am not making allegations. This is what the public thinks about the way the legislature operates. This is what it thinks. All right. And most time they even accuse the legislature, meaning the House, or in fact the entire legislature, of signing, you know, agreements, you know, passing laws, you know, most especially from the executive, because of what the executive, you know, pumps in at a given time. Mr. Kofa, yes, the majority bloc has succeeded in taking him from his position, but Mr. Kofa thinks that he's still the legitimate Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he has vowed not to recognize Speaker Coon's leadership, and then he awaits Supreme Court's ruling. Let me read this very short story. And it says, in the midst of a bitter leadership dispute, embattled House Speaker Fonati Kofa has declared he will not recognize the authority of Majority Bloc Speaker Richie Cohn until the Supreme Court delivers a ruling on a legal challenge filed regarding Cohn's ascendancy. Kofa's legal team submitted a bill of information to the Supreme Court, seeking a constitutional interpretation of the Majority Bloc's decision to Kofa him from to who? Remove him from office and elect Cohn. Yeah. To remove him from office and elect Cohn as the new speaker. Kofa firmly stated that participating in sessions under Cohn's leadership while the case remains unresolved we would effectively legitimize Cohn's speakership, a step he vehemently opposes. Upon his return to Liberia on Saturday, Kofa addressed the press, reiterating his position and emphasizing that he is awaiting the court's decision on the contentious leadership dispute. The speaker was welcomed by a large crowd of enthusiastic supporters at Rabas International Airport, further heightening the already tense political climate surrounding the House of Representatives. Kofa's return has the potential to intensify the ongoing battle for control of the legislature as the dispute over leadership continues to unfold. And this is a fact, as if I read the story before making the statement, but this is a fact. And this will continue to linger. It will continue to happen. So this thing is very, 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 very strong right now on a country that is struggling to attract international support. The president is going to areas, coming back home with good news, like we witnessed the return of the president to Liberia, from Dar es Salaam, where he's just signed this Dar es Salaam declaration. And it is something that's very, very important to Liberia. And if we have our capital building shattered into leadership struggle and all of that, it's a very, very, very important thing for us to look at. And I think this matter, this impasse should be resolved by now. And some of the questions that some of us have asked, is it that the executive has any kind of hand in this? Is it that the executive does the executive have oversight to that extent of getting involved with legislative conflict? So it's a critical situation, and we have gone through this thing it's going to a year now. Of course, this thing started since last year, and this is the second month. We are almost about to end this month. Today is the 10th of February, and it seems like it's about to start afresh, because this man is saying he's not going to quit his job. He's saying he's not going to sit down and watch somebody take his job, but rather he will fight. But in his fight, he want to do it legally. So even though a lot of things are happening under this new Speaker Cohn, but he's saying no, only the Supreme Court can satisfy my desire for justice. Once the Supreme Court says, yes, he did so, and his ascendancy is legal. I mean, one of the advantages that Representative Kofa has is that he's a learned lawyer. Is that how they call it? Learned or learned lawyer? He is a very, very erudite lawyer, practiced internationally, regardless of the things that folks would write about him and say about him. And I had an opportunity once to sit with him face to face and share with us confidentially regarding this situation concerning, how he robbed the system of America and all of that. Very smart lawyer, well connected. He knows the law. So he's waiting to get an interpretation. Now, this is a very critical situation, a very critical position that the Supreme Court is even in. Because the Supreme Court is going to be interpreting its ruling to a lawyer that has serious reasoning ability. He's still practicing law. I believe. All right. Maybe if he's not standing in the stand now, pleading for people, maybe he's doing some consultancies. He has his law firm, is doing so. So this man said, okay, no problem. So if you say that this thing is this way or is that way, tell me how. We need information. We did not understand the ruling. It seems ambiguous. So now tell us. You are the only person that can satisfy our desire for this thing. Once we hear from you, trust me, we're not going to bother. We're not going to be nagging about this thing anymore. We're going to call it a day and move on. Now the Supreme Court seems to be in a catch-22 situation. And some folks who may say that maybe the Supreme Court is operating with the executive, or or the Supreme Court is trying to be biased, or the Supreme Court does not want to give Kofa justice, or the Supreme Court that, and if Kofa does not recognize Representative Cohn's leadership or speakership, and then he doesn't go to the House, and if he gets suspended, I think is it this Tuesday, according to the information, is it Tuesday or next week? Tuesday, the information is that there's a plan to evict him from his office. But unfortunately for the majority bloc, from what I've gathered, is that they now want to go to the court to evict Speaker Kofa from his office. Okay, there's a serious situation. All right. So the court is the law too, right? Is a law house. Is a place where legal matters are adjudicated. So if the majority bloc, I'm just thinking, right? This is not figment of imagination, but I'm just thinking out loud, saying that, okay, if it goes to the court, if the majority bloc goes to the court, it means it also stands for the law. It's opposed the law. So he doesn't want to take law into his own hand. So it means that Kofa, on the other hand, who is a lawyer, he also stands for the law. So he's asking the Supreme Court to explain. While his explanation is yet to come, even though it is not the responsibility of the majority bloc to ensure that the Supreme Court explain the Bureau of Information that, respond to the Bureau of Information that the Kofa Kim filed. But it is sort of kind of, to me, a critical thing, because these people are the majority bloc. They're going to court now, and someone would say, well, did they do this thing legally? Did they do the process properly? Did they do it properly in a sense that they allow, they went to the court, at the legislature, they followed the rules that calls for the removal, of the speaker? Did they do that? So it's a critical, very critical situation for the country. And I think this is where we all sometimes need to sit down and just pray, asking God to give us guidance in a way that as these things continue to unfold, we should not slip back into conflict as a nation. We should not. We should all pray that nothing should cause us to slip back into conflict. Because the reason why I say that is that, unlike yesterday, maybe we had some level of independence, individual independence. We had some financial independence. We had moral independence. But if you look at the society today, majority of the people, majority of us, even morality is suggested to us by other people. They dictate to us what morality is. They sort of tell us that this is a moral thing, this is morally right, without some of us being able to sit down to critically think and say, well, this thing is immoral. I can't do this, and I won't do this. So, and that is so because there is this split in the middle of the once mutual and nationalistic relationship we used to have with each other. Today, if Michael is loyal to me, there is nothing that I will do that will be wrong in the eyes of Michael. If I am loyal to T-Max or say Martin Brown, there is nothing that either of those two elders will do that will be wrong to me. But if I come from a moral background where I was trained to tell people to call a spade, regardless what, and I speak the truth once, I get dealt with, opportunities are taken away from me, then I try again, I'm dealt with, I tried again, I'm dealt with. The next thing is that I'm going to get myself in survival mode. And that's where a lot of us are in the country. Many of us are in survival mode. Once you get in the survival mode, it becomes a problem for us. For you as a person, living in survival mode is a problem. Let me tell you what survival mode is. Maybe for some of you, you don't understand. Survival mode is a mode a person can get in where their whole life depends on survival. They're not making any much investment. Some of them, they're not even improving themselves academically. They're not building networks. All they do is when they pick up the phone and call someone, they just want something. They want to go back home. They want to make sure that there's a cup of rice in the house. They want to eat something. There's food in the house. They have clothes to wear. They have a place to sleep. They just want to survive. That person becomes vulnerable, and their vulnerability affects the society in so many ways. Such as sometimes these people are used to carry out violence, carry out protests, stage protests for government officials, draw attention of international community to our nation because of our separate issues that are not resolved. And by the time something sparks up, people are energized and they are put into action to do what should not be done as patriotic, people. So today, this legislative conflict that we have already, this conflict has led. If I can get arrested for this, no problem. But I believe it is a conflict at the Capitol building that led to the burning of the rotunda of the Capitol building. Is that the rotunda or the joint? All right, the joint chambers of the Capitol building. So see the grave action, the decision taken by that individual or those individuals that did the act. It tells you now, if you connect to everything that I've said, talking about survival mode, talking about relationship, talking about the breaking down of the once mutual or nationalistic relationships we had as a nation, now it's more individualistic and at the same time relationship based on benefit. It tells you the degree at which that person will wake up that day to say, you know what? Don't worry, Chief. Whether they were sponsored by people or they just got angry that their boss or whomever. I'm not saying this to say that it is the fast team camp that did it or so, or it is the Coons camp that did it. But whomever supported these people that did the act to burn the Capitol building, it should serve as a signal to all of us to always sit down. When we discuss issues, let's discuss issues civilly. Civilly, so we can come to a conclusion. And that's why it is said in Ecclesiastes, say, let us not come to the conclusion of this matter. The conclusion of Liberia's problem is love for each other, is fight against corruption. Let us all galvanize our energies and ensure that we defeat these things that are, inhuman to us. They're not correct. Corruption, yes, humans are the ones that corrupt from the creation. But whenever we engage into more corruption, we hurt ourselves, we hurt the country, we hurt the people we love, we hurt the entire society. We sometimes destroy a whole generation. A whole generation gets destroyed. There's a whole generation in the street of Monrovia, in many streets of our subsidies in the country. Whole generation. In fact, maybe 1, 2, or 3 generations, or maybe the generations are even increasing in the street. A lot of young people on drugs. A lot of young people are frustrated. The people are just getting out of their heads. They're just running, getting out of their minds, and they're just doing stuff. So you see, it's a very, very serious situation. And if we don't wake up to work as a people, it's going to take us backwards. See the good news that we are receiving. LEC is making moves. I mean, it's trying to say, you know what? Let's connect this place. We can do it. Let's get into MOUs. All right. If we can do thermal power, let's do thermal power. If we can do solar, let's do solar. All right. But whatever we do, let's get into agreements with people. Let our people have access to electricity. Maybe I'm going to close the show shortly and ask Mark here to play that song again that he played when I took the break. Maybe a new dawn is coming where Liberians will wake up proudly. You wake up and put on your white sneakers from your house. You get on the road, dust doesn't catch it. Maybe our streets are going to be paved in a way that you can walk by the sidewalk and a vehicle passes by. You wouldn't even know that a vehicle just passed you by. Maybe we are getting at that point where, children in the villages don't have to use a lamp that is made of piece of thread, piece of cloth, put in a plate, or is put around it. A rack is put there, and gradually you have to keep pushing it up. Whenever it burns a little, you push it up a bit, you put the rack where it's getting to the rack, it will stop. Then you have to wake up and push it up. Well, I did that many times. My grandma would wake me up from bed and say, "My man, go and put this on the up." Well, especially when she's not ready to sleep yet. So you have to stay by that lamp. Maybe we are getting up to a time where we go to the villages, we go to various villages in Liberia. What will you see? You see people excited. They're doing business at night. They're gathering at the various palaver huts. Instead of intellectual centers in the various rural areas, we have palaver huts. Palaver huts are serene, not serene. All right. They are so calming environments, or places where people sit down. They have, unlike the shouting form of intellectualism we have here in the urban area, but at the palaver huts in the rural areas, people sit down. When one person is speaking, other people are listening. Some are there preparing to ask questions. Some are there preparing to act. No one is fighting. No one is going to insult anyone. That has changed a bit in some parts of the country. But maybe we get into a point where there will be lights hanging in the palaver huts where young people can gather at the palaver house at night and say, you know what? So we don't have the chance to have meetings during the day. So we have electricity now. We will come from the farms. Let's gather in the evening and sit down at one of the palaver house, or maybe there are 4 or 5 palaver huts in that particular town or village. Let's sit down and have conversation and have a soul-searching conversation with ourselves, among ourselves, so that we can discuss the growth of our village. All of that will be powered by the presence of electricity. And these things are happening. Steps are being taken. People are being asked to leave their areas of work and go home to sit down because of corruption allegations. We saw that with the DEA. We saw that in the immigration. We are seeing that now at local. Things are happening. But how about we then sit down and look up Capitol Hill? That place is a recipe for conflict at the moment. Serious conflict. They may just spill over from that Capitol building. Now, the first thing we witness after the situation is the burning of a major part of the building. The next day, Senate woke up and see and told out they need like 1.8 million to renovate the area. How do you come up with that? Was the engineer waiting and was he expecting that Capitol building was going to burn? And then overnight, he did it. He quickly went there and they estimate and say, "Okay, yeah, 1.8 million can renovate this place." Even if your house caught fire and it burns today, you're not just going to wake up right away and say, "You know what? I'm going to renovate this place." You got to invite an engineer that will sit down and look at it and say, "Is it would this building be strong again if I put zinc over it, or I have to break it down and rebuild?" Engineer will advise you, but that will take you days. But anyway, you can keep pulling several strings and things. But in all that we do, in all that we say, in all that we believe in, let's believe in one Liberia, in the group of this country, so that we all can be able to build this nation and make it a better place. Remember, my personal motivation, I share with you this morning, that circumstances will come. Challenges will always be there. And multitudes of them will attack you every day, every time. But you know what? As long as you do not give up, success is your end and failure is not your portion. My name is Matthias Labindi. Thanks for being there with me this morning, joining me on Sky Morning Live and Sky 107.1. We're not going to be here tomorrow because it's holiday, but on Wednesday, we're going to be here to talk more about Liberia.